commit his white chocolate. Sorry, what is your next? White chocolate cup?
That's not
Okay, so you're not gonna come now.
no, it's an
That's why I asked. Strawberry white chocolate, that's why. I can't even lie. You feel good from me. No, the actual bar is disgusting. Like the actual chocolate bar. It's like dry. Oh, it is just so rich. Actually, not my fault.
My phone is on,
I believe everyone is back in here, correct? Are the people back and ready to proceed?
Yes, sir. The people are back and ready to proceed.
Funds? Yes, Your Honor. Okay. People? Closed?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed when ready.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury. She wanted her moment, and it made her a murderer. How much is life worth? So most of us, the answer's simple. Nothing. Not money, not winning, not pride. Because of life is something precious. It's valuable. Because once it's gone, it's gone. Forever. But to the defendant, a game, a title, a moment of victory, that was more important than Rob Armstrong's life. She made her choice when she ignored every warning and put the oxalic acid in Rob Armstrong's mask. When you take risk after risk, someone dies because of it, you've already answered how much that money meant. To the defendant, Rob Armstrong's life was expendable. You heard here today in court that Rob Armstrong was not just another contestant to the defendant. No, Rob Armstrong was the person who ruined their life. After the betrayal on season 2, the defendant lost friends, money, their reputation, all because Armstrong got his TV moment. So when she was offered a spot back onto the show, she saw this as her chance. Her chance to fix her reputation. Her chance to prove her haters wrong. Her chance to get her moment. And nothing was going to get in the way of that. But Mr. Armstrong was an obstacle she just couldn't seem to get through. He made alliances, he won challenge after challenge, he had her on the verge of elimination and humiliation once again. She couldn't let that happen. She got what she wanted. She got her moment while Rob Armstrong's lifeless body was being dragged out of the coop. Now, we as the prosecution have the burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Ms. Martin is guilty of murder. Now what that means is we have to prove that Mr. Armstrong was murdered recklessly under circumstances showing an extreme indifference to the value of human life. Whether she intended to or not does not matter to the law. Because if she acted recklessly enough, she can be found guilty of murder. And we showed that today here in court with 3 main points. First, the acid she placed in the mask killed Rob Armstrong. Second, she did it because she wanted her moment. And lastly, third, she knew the actions she was taking were dangerous. Now, let's address the first point. The acid. She placed it there. Members of the jury, this is not a disputed fact. This is not debatable. Oxalic acid was found in the mask of Rob Armstrong, and she put it there. Now, a diving mask's intended use is to breathe underwater. Once you place that mask on and you're under the water, you trust that you'll be able to safely breathe through it. Well, Rob Armstrong trusted that mask. Now he's dead. We heard today from Dr. Atlas Hartley how Armstrong suffered severe burns to his mouth, lips, and throat from the acid. We also heard that due to the inhalation of that acid, he became disoriented, showing signs of hypoxia. He was flailing under the water, shaking his head, gripping at his mask. And then he finally relieves himself of it and takes in a deep breath. But instead of fresh air, water is now quickly filling his lungs as he sinks deeper and deeper into the lagoon. That was not placed there on accident, but on purpose by the defendant to secure her win. Second point. She wanted her moment. We heard today from Riley Kay how the defendant described the betrayal as the most humiliating moment of her life. She wanted to get back her reputation, and she saw the fall of her reputation all as Rob Armstrong's fault. So, when she was offered a chance back onto the show, she took it. She did not intend to waste it. We heard testimony today from Riley Kay that if she did not win the final challenge, her chances of winning were virtually zero. So with her back against the wall, she took an acid she knew was dangerous and placed it into the mask. And lastly, she knew the harm. We heard testimony today from Nell Dews how far the defendant wanted to go since the beginning of the season, with ideas like placing sleeping pills in Rob's water bottle, to putting rat poison in his breakfast. Now, of course, her ideas were shot down by production and staff. She was even told that this could be considered assault. This wasn't enough for her. No, the finale was nearing and she was getting desperate. And that's when the acid came to her attention. We heard testimony today from Nell Dews that the defendant was told and warned that the acid was dangerous. And yet she still put it there. The acid killed her. She wanted her moment. And she could appreciate harm. Whether or not she intended to, a man died. A man died because of her reckless actions. She wanted her moment, and it made her a moment. Members of the jury, you have a duty today. A duty to find the defendant guilty of murder. Thank you.
Any closing from the defense?
Yes, Your Honor. May I also approach your exhibit 32 for use of closing?
You may. Which one's 32?
It's just two spots. May I proceed?
You may.
Your Honor, opposing counsel, members of the jury, may it please the court. Charlie didn't want her moment. She wanted her mom. You heard that that's why she went back on the Sabbath course. Not to kill Rob Armstrong as the statements presented to you, but merely to save her mom. But that didn't fit the state's script. That didn't fit the facts that they wanted to prove today. Because the truth is, they didn't prove what they needed to. When they walked into this courtroom today, they had a burden. That burden stayed here, and it never shifted to the defense. They had to prove to you, beyond a reasonable doubt, that Charlie Martin killed Rob Armstrong. They had to prove to you that Charlie knowingly, purposefully, or recklessly, while having an extreme indifference to Rob's life, killed him. And today they chose to prove recklessly. They chose to prove that Charlie had an extreme indifference. And I submit to you that they utterly failed to meet that burden. They told you 3 main points in their opening statement, and the opposing counsel just told you them again in their closing argument. So let's talk about each one. First, they told you that oxalic acid caused the death of Rob Armstrong. Well, you heard that testimony from Dr. Atlas Hartley, somebody who said they got involved in the case because the governor gave him a call. They had a long-standing relationship with him. And the governor said, I wanted results. I need these results. This is a high-profile case. Dr. Hartley, you're the person for the job. You heard about Dr. Hartley's methods today. You heard that after an H&E didn't return any results, they stepped out of medical procedure, an established procedures, that they said they were going to run another test because of their gut feeling, because the facts as they were finding them didn't fit the state's case. It didn't fit what the governor told them they needed to meet. So I submit to you that they did not prove that oxalic acid killed Rob Armstrong. They merely tried to give you a script. And they continued that script through their next point. They told you that Charlie wanted her TV moment. And they told that to you through Riley Kay. Well, what you also heard from Riley Kay is that they had an immunity deal where they would avoid all charges relating to the homicide of Rob Armstrong in order for testifying. If they testify for the state, then they're not responsible for the death of Rob. You heard that they were convicted of rigging a game show called The Saboteurs. If they didn't testify today, then they go to jail. And so they followed the state that the script gave them. And it's not the first time they followed instructions from somebody in charge of them. You heard that there was evidence that could have proved today what really happened at the set of The Saboteurs. But members of the jury, you can't hear it because Riley Kay destroyed it. She wiped all of the footage, every single bit of evidence. And when asked, why'd you do that? She told you, because my boss told me to. Well, she testified today because the state told her to. If she's willing to do that for her boss, what is she willing to do when the state tells her, either you testify for us or you go to jail? They told you that Charlie wanted her moment. But you heard that just wasn't true. I mean, if Charlie wanted revenge and her moment, how would killing Rob Armstrong help her? What did she gain from this? Because the answer is nothing. You heard that she went on the show to save her mom. She didn't go because of Rob Armstrong. You heard she didn't even know he was going to be on set. She was lied to. She went on the show because there was no other way for her to save her mom. And the state has tried to tell you that the only way for her to do that was to eliminate Rob. Was to get him out of the show and get rid of him forever. But that's not true. You heard that Charlie could have gotten a sponsorship deal. I mean, you heard from every witness who was involved in reality TV in this case that ratings are hugely important. I mean, the public watches these shows. They're involved in commercials. Charlie had a sponsorship deal lined up with Rob Armstrong, one of the most famous players on the Saboteurs ever. How would they enact that deal if Rob Armstrong is dead? What interest does Charlie Martin have? And the truth is, they don't, because they didn't want their moment. They just wanted their mom. Now, the state brought to you one last point today. They told you that repeated actions by the defendant show that they wanted Rob dead. They mentioned rodenticide. They mentioned sleeping pills. They mentioned weights in a backpack. Well, you heard that informal sabotage was part of the show. Everything was hyped up. It was just part of the game. And if you think it got a little out of hand, then maybe some of those tricks shouldn't have been taken that far, that's fine. But their burden today is with an extreme indifference to human life. And they simply didn't show it. When they talked about the oxalic acid, the smelly substance in Rob's mask, they didn't mention that Charlie put it in there because it smelled bad. Because that was a common sabotage for Rob. And when they put it in there, they didn't dump the entire container in there. They took this small spoon, scooped one full scoop, and a little bit more. And that's all they did. The state has simply failed to meet their burden today and their case. And if after that you still believe that Charlie Martin could have done this, you heard from expert psychologist Mika Lin. And Dr. Lin told you that Charlie thought the safety measures would be enough and that their sabotages weren't dangerous. The state has utterly failed to meet the burden that solely rests on them. And that's because Charlie didn't want her moment. She just wanted her mom. And that's why the defense is asking that you deliver the only verdict that justice demands and find her not guilty. Thank you.
Do we have a rebuttal?
Yes, Your Honor. May I ask how much time I have left?
I'm in 50.
Let's see.
Whenever you're ready.
Excuse me. Your Honor, members of the jury, opposing counsel, it seems today that the defense wants to talk about recklessness, which is our main theory. Our entire case is built upon this. And yes, we brought plenty of witnesses up here to defend this recklessness, but I think the person who clearly displayed the amount of recklessness the defendant has done was the defendant herself. She admitted to putting scoops of oxalic acid into Rob Armstrong's mask. Now, Dr. Atlas Hartley said today that over 1 gram could be found in it. Well, not only did the defendant put 1 scoop in there, she put 2. And looking at the scoop that was shown today here in court, just 1 would be over 1 gram. The defendant also talked about doing tricks, that this was all hyped up for reality TV. Well, some of those tricks were putting sleeping pills in Rob's water bottle and trying to put rodenticide in his breakfast. Now, we've seen that production takes safety very seriously because these ideas were shut down immediately. But, members of the jury, may I ask you, would you think that taking away someone's oxygen tank when they have to go down underwater for a dive, that's a silly trick? Members of the jury, do you think putting a poisonous acid that she read the label of that said warning, harmful, fatal, do you think that's a silly trick? It seems that the defendant here today has proved the recklessness, and we have shown so much evidence to rest our case in chief. Please find the defendant guilty. Thank you.
Thank you. Great job, everyone. Let's give us a moment here to finish compiling. One question I have for y'all, I'll stay after to give feedback individually. I know we want all the things. Would you mind if I just take a picture and I'll delete all the comments afterwards from my phone? I just want to make sure I can actually provide feedback if you want it. Is that cool? I promise it doesn't affect score if you say no. If you really don't want that, it's fine. Oh, we hold on to these. We got to numbers. Oh, perfect. Never mind. If I can hold on to these, we're all good. I believe we're all set. Before we get into general comments, before we get into anything, everyone wants to collect their exhibits. There's also needs to be on the floor there. Oh, thanks, man. Before we get into any general comments, I'm going to let my co-judge, because I've been speaking so much to y'all, introduce himself first.
Okay, hi, my name is Will Lorenz. I am currently the Deputy County Clerk at the County Clerk's Office. I spent 10 years in civil and criminal litigation. Also a coach this weekend. I won't tell you which team, but hopefully we won't come across you guys because both sides did extremely well. So, I was asked to fill in for judging today. It was actually my first time judging at a regional. I judged a lot of invitationals, but usually the past 10 years I've been coaching, so I try to stay with the team, but it was pleasure to be up here. Also a graduate of UB Law School, so as you're walking toward the stairs, you'll see class of 2012, the pictures up there. So it's fun. Hadn't seen that picture in about 12 years.
Hi, I'm Evan Kilcoyne. I was a former competitor with the Cornell mock trial team. I'm here with them this weekend. I was an all-national attorney and witness with them. I graduated last year, so I took a gap year going to law school next year. I'm from Buffalo, so it was nice I was just able to pop in and say hi to them while they're here. The overall great trial, everyone. A few general comments for everyone. Again, I'm going to keep everything specific in case you want to come talk to me. Y'all got lunch too, so I'm not going to keep you here forever. Exhibit 13, that xylic acid, ever entered into evidence the entire trial. It's not pre-admitted, but all objections have been waived. At no point was that offered into evidence. We talked about it.
Yeah. We missed the know each other. No,
Yeah. So make sure we are entering that into evidence, even if all objections have been waived. We are moving evidence in when we are showing it to witnesses. You'll see, when you actually look at my comments when I talk to them, I try to focus on the negatives, not because I thought it was a really good one, but it's more so just because I can gas y'all up every single day, but when you're looking for comments, I want to focus on things you can actually learn from, grow from. But overall, great job.
I know we can't give super technical comments while the ballots are back. I guess one thing I can say to both sides, just remember, what you're trying to prove in this case. Someone's on trial for murder. So nobody at either table should really be smiling at any point in this trial, unless you think hammer home a point, but especially when the defendant's up there, like, prosecution, you should be watching her like a hawk at that point. Like, that's your prey right now. You're trying to get that guilty plea.
One other thing I had, and I think it happened for both sides, I was ready to sustain an objection, and then you offered a limiting instruction, and I was like, okay, I'll take your limiting instruction, but I was about to keep the evidence off of the record, and the limiting instruction was offered, in which I then overruled the objection with the limiting instruction. So sometimes just stick by your guns. Like, if you're confident in your answer and you think that you're going to get that on, like, you can keep that off the record, sometimes just hold in your own and seeing where the judge rules might be in your favor.
We're all good.
Perfect. Where are y'all from, now that I can know that?
We're all right.
University of Buffalo.
Awesome. Okay. I also spent my freshman year at UB, but I transferred to Cornell. So I wasn't on the trial team, but yeah. You have anything specific you want to get to?
One point on the defense opening, you went over and touched the prosecution's desk. I liked it. I can see other people saying it was maybe getting a little disrespectful going over and touching the binder, but these are very subjective here when you're judging, as we all know, and if you've competed before, so we'll see in the notes there's things I liked and maybe he didn't like and vice versa, but just keep in mind as you're going through all your strategy, is this the right move to do? Okay, maybe one person liked it, but that's why you really got a workshop. Just run through it. You get 4 people saying don't do it. Okay, maybe something's wrong with it.
The hardest part of mock trial is how subjective it is. It's frustrating. You'll come across judges where they say some crazy things or believe some crazy things. I had a judge tell me once not to ask leading questions on cross. Yeah, you gotta roll with the punches when they come. But yeah, no, like to his point, knowing when to back off and like knowing the best mock trialers are the ones who ride the middle. They know what the average judge would like. And sure, you might lose some ballots here and there, but if you pick up the average, you're going to win in the aggregate. But yeah, great job. All right, I have nothing further.
Yeah, if people want individual ones or happy to talk to you, great job and enjoy your own work.
Thank you.
Thank you.